DevX, as well as I'm a coach for organizational talent management, as well as leadership, in terms of leadership, looking at how can we develop more emotionally intelligent leaders. And so why do I do the work that I do? I believe that team members are the heart of any company. They're the key to a successful company, a viable company. And so what I do is I strive to bring empathy, belonging, authenticity, self-awareness, silliness, laughter, and compassion to every interaction. So in the context of my roles, as an organizational and leadership coach, I've been doing that since 2017. I've coached professionals from tech startups to large multinational corporations, universities. And what I love about it is you get to help people see new perspectives, really find their inner light or their confidence, so they can achieve aspirational goals, and then mindfully improve the way that they work and reach that potential and design a fulfilling life. So the coaching philosophy that I focus on, that I bring to my other role, is around kind of three frameworks or approaches, which is coactive coaching, mindfulness, and growth mindset. So in terms of how I use this at DevX, I lead the people team, and so I oversee all of our talent acquisition, as well as organizational development and professional development strategies and operations. So I work closely across our leadership team, as well with all of our team members across the globe, to attract awesome people to join our team, and then work internally to look at how can we cultivate a workplace where it's equitable, you can continue to learn and grow and find meaning in work that you do, so they can contribute to, or all DevXers can contribute to, the greater mission and vision of DevX, which is to do more good for more people in the global development community. So that's a little bit about my roles, and DevX, if you're ever interested in it, they're a media platform for the global development space. So I like to describe it. It's kind of like LinkedIn, but for global development. It's pretty complex, so I won't jump into it now. But that's a little bit about me. So we are going to jump into today's session. But before kicking it off, I would like for all of us to take stock of where we are right now. So find a comfortable position, and I invite you to close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Otherwise, you can gaze downward past your nose, and just start by finding the breath that's right for you. So not too fast, not too slow. Just the right pace, just the right tempo. And you'll know that you found the breath that's right for you when you feel this sense of release or relief in the body. And now guide your attention to the body. Where might you be holding or feeling tension? In the jaw, the shoulders? Or do you feel relaxed? What other physical sensations are present right now? And now bring your attention to the mind. What thoughts are present? Which thoughts are on loop that continue to come back? And now bring attention to the emotions present. Could be things like anxiety, stress, calm, happiness. Which emotions are present? All right, so I welcome you to come back to the space. And now that you've taken stock of where you are, you can grab a pen and paper or pull up a doc on your computer or just mentally make note of what you observed in the body, the mind, any emotions. It can be just a couple bullets. Okay, so now you can take those notes and imagine you have a jar. Tuck them away in this jar, set them on a shelf, and you can return them to them later. But for now, we're going to sit in today's space, in today's session. And so this brings us to the question, what is mindfulness? Well, we just practiced it, but what is it really? How do we define it? So mindfulness happens when we practice moment by moment awareness of our thoughts, our feelings, our physical sensations, and our surrounding environment. And we do this through a gentle, curious, and nurturing lens. So I like to think of it kind of like wearing sunglasses. Sunglasses protect your eyes from the harshness of the sun. Mindfulness protects you from the harshness of the mind. So think of it this way. If in mindfulness we embrace acceptance, meaning that we focus on our thoughts and feelings without judging them, without believing that there's a right or wrong, it's always open. Mindfulness isn't perfect. It's just something to practice. It's a lifelong practice, and it's also not meditation. So meditation is a mindfulness practice. When I talk about this, I always like to differentiate that if you think about mindfulness, it's kind of like an umbrella, and then within it, mindfulness mindfulness is the umbrella, and meditation sits within it as one of the practices. So mindfulness can include a lot of many different things. You might have walking here, you might have seeing, you might have listening, you might have speaking, you might have exercising. The list goes on and on. You essentially can do mindfulness in anything in your life. It's just simply practicing awareness in each moment, being fully present with the now, and with this underlying sense of curiosity, non-judgment, and acceptance. So mindfulness has been around for more than 2,000 years, and it's been practiced by various religious and secular traditions, from Hinduism and Buddhism to yoga, and more recently, non-religious meditation. So the research on mindfulness is relatively young. It started in the 1950s, but the results were unreliable. And as technology has improved, so has the scientifically backed research on mindfulness. Today, we know a lot more about the effects of long-term mindfulness practice on the body and the brain and their benefits. So what benefits exist? First, it lowers stress and anxiety. Several studies have found that mindfulness increases our positive emotions while reducing our negative emotions and stress. Second is it helps our brain regions for learning, memory, emotion regulation, and empathy. So what research has found is it increases density of gray matter. So gray matter contains most of the brain's neural cell bodies. And in this section, the brain regions linked to learning, memory, emotion, regulation, and empathy are the ones that are impacted most. So in short, it helps our brain. It also increases focus and decision-making, which who wouldn't love to be able to focus more when we've got deep work or when we need to make a decision more quickly. And it also increases relationship satisfaction. So research suggests that mindfulness training makes couples more satisfied with their relationship. It makes each partner feel more optimistic and relaxed. And it makes them feel more accepting of and closer to one another. Mindful couples may also recover more quickly from research or from conflict. There's not a lot of research on what this means specifically in the workplace. However, I think we could think about how does this map to the relationships that we have with our team members, or more broadly, it could go to our friends or other people in our family. And it also fosters compassion as well as altruism. So research also suggests that mindfulness makes us more likely to help someone in need. And it also increases the activity, again, in our neural networks involved in understanding the suffering of others and regulating emotions. So this is something where we can be connected, we can feel it, but we don't feel the negative side effects that we get from empathy. You can get burnout from empathy, whereas when you develop compassion, it helps you actually take action and not feel the negative side effects. It also strengthens a sense of self. So more mindful people tend to have a stronger sense of self, and they seem to act more in alignment with their values. They might have healthier body image, a more secure self-esteem, and they may also be more resilient to negative feedback or constructive feedback. And then lastly, we've seen that it boosts your immune system. So what we found is that our researchers found that after just 8 weeks of practicing, and practicing specifically mindfulness meditation, it boosts our immune system's ability to fight off illness. So this is huge, right? I was someone who used to get sick all the time. And since I've made some shifts and started practicing mindfulness, I haven't been sick, I think, in over at least a year, that's anecdotal, but I think that's really fascinating. And something else that mindfulness can help with in relationship to your immune system is improving your quality of sleep. And honestly, who doesn't want better sleep? Everyone wants better sleep. So how does this relate to work? What are the benefits of mindfulness in the workplace? So there are a few that I'm going to list off that are specific to work, but also, right, they can map into other areas of your life as well. So it helps reduce work-related stress, anxiety, depression, fatigue, and multitasking. I think we can all agree we've experienced at least one of these things in the workplace in our careers. Higher resiliency, so going back to when you receive constructive feedback, being able to bounce back from that and look at how can I use this as a growth opportunity. Decreased burnout and employee turnover. So this is really important, right? We want to make sure we're helping people be balanced within their work so they can do their best work and want to stay a part of the team. Improved creativity and job performance. More confident leadership. So you'll actually see the perception of leadership is that they are more confident. They feel it themselves, but also it's perceived by the rest of the team. And then you have greater job and customer satisfaction. So all of these benefits are crucial for strong company culture, for a positive employee experience, and ultimately higher productivity and revenue. That's what creates a sustainable business. So it's looking at how can we be more holistic to see that this is connected to the success, partially, of your organization and organizations as we move forward. So now we're going to shift gears a bit into the question of how can I start practicing mindfulness? I'm curious, I can't see everyone, but of those I can see, how many people practice mindfulness already in their life? Do you have any people? Kind of? Yes and no? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah? Cool. Yeah, that's great. So I think mindfulness, it's a lifelong journey. There are ebbs and flows always. And what I recommend for anyone who's beginning to practice or really trying to find their routine is to experiment. Experimentation is the best way to do it. I've been practicing since 2005, and it took me a lot of time to figure out which practices work for me. And so as I transition into new stages of my mindfulness journey, or life happens, aka COVID, what worked before doesn't always work. So I continually experiment and adapt to find new routines that work for me. So, for example, right now, I don't do sitting meditations. I used to, but I found right now mindful movement is much more effective because I have energy that I need to get out because of what's been going on with COVID. So it's really understanding what works for you. There's no right, there's no wrong. And so I think there are two kind of routes you can take to get started. So one is you pick one mindfulness technique You practice it for a week. You can take notes after you practice it. I actually recommend before and after, so you can see how it's affected you. And then you can try another. You can cycle through a few different techniques and see which of those techniques you'd like to practice regularly. And then you stack it on to an existing habit you already have, like brushing your teeth or eating breakfast or when you get out of bed or right before you go to bed. The other option is to rotate through 7 different practices, one for every day of the week. So this is where you can kind of like dip your toe in the pool and see, okay, do I want to go in deeper? If so, then I can. So what we're going to do with the rest of today's session, or the majority, is look at 7 different techniques that you can get started with, whether you want to try them for a week at a time or one every day. That's really up to you. So we're going to look at it from like a daily standpoint. So the first is Monday. Monday is gratitude. Find things that you're grateful for throughout the day. And you can do this a couple ways. You can use a gratitude meditation, or you can jot it down in a journal. So we're going to do a short practice again around a gratitude meditation. So I invite you to get comfortable again, or cozy in a little bit more. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable, or gaze past your nose. And just start by bringing to mind what you're grateful for in this moment. It could be how comfy and plush your couch is, the chair, your warm tea, the sound of birds singing outside, maybe the sunlight, a gentle breeze coming through the window. What are you grateful for in this moment? And now focus deeply on this thing you're grateful for. Notice the details, the smells, the sounds, the physical sensations, any emotions that arise. And rest in the details. Allow them to soak in like the sun's embrace. And now imagine what life would be like without this thing that you're grateful for. You might feel sad, or cold, or lonely, or hungry, or scared. What would it be like without this thing? Now come back to this thing that you're grateful for. How does it feel to know that you have this gift in your life? And how can you bring this gratitude into your day? How does it expand into all the other small gifts, all the things we take for granted that we don't notice? And how great would it feel to experience this every day? Once you've soaked it in fully, you can come back to the space. We're going to journey on to Tuesday and what you can try out on Tuesday. So Tuesday is about loving kindness and compassion. So this is setting an intention to be kind and compassionate with yourself, Starts at home, but also with others throughout the day. So we're going to do another short session that I really like. It's from Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist monk, and this is one that I've held with me for about 15 years now. But there are a lot of different ones you can do. So we can settle back in and close our eyes. And just start by observing the breath. And now silently repeat the phrases that I'll share with you. May I be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May I be safe and free from injury. May I be free from anger, affliction, fear, and anxiety. Now bring to mind someone you love. It could be a family member, a friend, a pet. And silently repeat the following phrases. May you be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May you be safe and free from injury. May you be free from anger, affliction, fear, and anxiety. And now bring to mind the whole planet. So this could be your neighbors, strangers you see on the street. Just continue to zoom out until you imagine the earth. You can imagine it wrapped in a golden light. And silently repeat, may we all be peaceful, happy, and light in body and spirit. May we all be safe and free from injury. May we all be free from anger, affliction, fear, and anxiety. And now just notice what's happened within the body, the mind, the emotions after this practice. You notice any shift. Now I invite you to gently open your eyes and return to the space. Okay, so this is something that you can do quite regularly. I think this one's really powerful, and we've seen how your brain actually changes through self-compassion or compassion meditations. And you just repeat these phrases over and over, visualizing different people. And this is where you see where we start to move into action of how can I help someone that I'm noticing is suffering. So Tuesday is a pretty cool one. This is one of my favorites. On Wednesday, it's such a simple one, right? Breathe. Breathe deeply for 30 to 60 seconds to reset and center. So I think we can all say, I've heard like, I'm so busy. I have so much to do. I can't keep up, right? These sentences are all probably familiar to all of us. We've all experienced this in our life in some way. And what's crazy is that when this happens, we often forget to breathe, like really breathe. When we feel stressed, when we're sprinting, not literally, but figuratively, what happens? The breath quickens and it becomes more shallow. It ignites, what happens is it ignites the sympathetic nervous system. So this puts us into fight or flight mode. So how do we slow down? Breathe. Simple. Deep breathing is what activates our parasympathetic nervous system. And this is what kickstarts our digestive system. It slows down our heart rate. This is the resting state that we can be in. So if any of you practice yoga or if you meditate, you'll start to notice you just feel this like, you just settle in, you feel super centered. This is where you're really digging into your parasympathetic nervous system. And breathing can act like a reset button. And it's an excellent tool to use at the start of your day, between meetings, when your kids might be calling for your attention while you're trying to focus on some deep work, or maybe it's at the end of the day. It's something that can be super quick. Like I said, it could be 30 to 60 seconds. Maybe it's just 5 breaths when you jump in between meetings. So we're going to practice this one as well. And so I'm going to invite you again to close your eyes and just settle in. And in life, when it feels like we're trying to keep up, but no matter how fast we run, it never feels like enough. Know that you're doing enough. And today I'd like to invite you to slow down, to walk instead of run. And it begins with the breath. It's always moving, yet it's also always there as an anchor, a place to stop and center yourself. There's nothing to figure out, no problems to solve, and nothing special to do. So notice the breath. Is it fast and shallow, slow and deep, or somewhere in between? Now bring attention to the belly. As you inhale, notice the rising of the belly. And as you exhale, notice the falling of the belly. Deepen the breath and continue to observe the rising and falling. Now bring awareness to the chest. As you inhale, feel the expansion of the lungs and the chest. And as you exhale, feel the contraction. Deepen the breath and continue to observe the expansion and contraction. Now bring awareness to the nostrils. And as you inhale, notice the temperature of the air as it enters the nose. As you exhale, notice the temperature of the air as it exits. Deepen the breath to see what's present for you. And now rest your awareness on one of those 3 spots, the belly, the chest, or the nose. And continue to observe each inhalation and exhalation. Now before we finish the practice, take notice of the breath. How is it different from when we started? Know that the breath is always here for you. It's a place of calm, of center. It's a place where you can walk instead of run. And on your next inhalation, gently open your eyes and come back to the space. Awesome. All right. So now we're going to move into Thursday. Is everyone feeling a little bit more calm since we've started the session? I feel like we're going into hardcore mindfulness right now. Lovely. All right. So Thursday. What's Thursday for us? I love this one. Thursdays, I love all of them, I think I should say. I love this one, beginner's mindset. This is where we can really tap into our curiosity. And so what I like to do is I imagine that I'm an alien that just landed on Earth. And I need to use all of my senses to explore the surroundings around me and to get curious. So what could these things be used for? What are things that I've never noticed? What does that look like? So based on where you're sitting today, let's pretend that. Let's say you just flew in on your spaceship, you landed, you're in the space that you're in now. Look around. What's there? What's foreign to you? What's new? What could it be? Just take a couple minutes and try this out. What sounds do you hear that are new, they're unfamiliar? What smells are you picking up? All right, so you can come back. I think this one, my go-to is when I'm taking a walk or when you do something, the same thing every day with routine. This is an excellent opportunity. So, once maybe we return to normal, where maybe you're taking transit on a regular basis, or, kind of the things that you do every day in some way. Apply this, see how it changes. I guarantee you're going to notice something new or different every day. I've experimented with this a lot where I live, and it's crazy that I can walk past the same thing almost every day for multiple years, and then I don't even notice it until I do something like this. And then Friday, I like to call feeling it. It's Friday, so do something active, exercise, observe it, take it in. So if you want, this is completely optional. You can, if you have a space where you can do some movement, you can stand up. If not, you can stay seated in your chair and maybe try to replicate this. But you can close your eyes if you feel comfortable, or you can keep them open and just start to sway back and forth. Just kind of rocking back and forth. If you're standing, notice your feet. How does the pressure change? What kinds of sensations do you notice? If you're sitting, maybe your buttocks, what's the pressure change? What sensations do you notice? Your lower back. And really just get into it, let it go. Just feel the movement. Move your arms, your head. Just rest into it and observe. What energy is there? What emotions are there? What's happening with the breath? Now zoom out and kind of observe the body as a whole. What's happening with this body we've got, right? This thing that we don't pay attention to, but it's very much a big part of us every day. Yeah, just notice that. So come back. You can slowly stop your sway, whether you're seated or if you're standing, you can take a seat. And then think about how you can apply this same idea to any kind of physical activity you have, right? It could be walking, running, climbing, scuba, football, swimming, really whatever you like to do. How can you apply this? And when I'm doing this, I think it's great to really start with the body first. So noticing the points of contact on the feet. Noticing maybe how your arms rub on the body, on the side of the body if you're running. Or are you holding your shoulders up as you're doing something? Just really getting close to that. And once you do that, start to take in the sounds around you, the smells around you, and just be really immersed in that, right? When we exercise, I think there are times where we need it to process information, but it's also an opportunity where we can really be present and observe. And then we move on to Saturday. And what fun would mindfulness be if we didn't get to celebrate stuff, right? We live in a society of heavily scarcity mindset, right? Never enough, always on to the next thing. Stop, take a moment, celebrate, right? Make sure to celebrate all the joy, the accomplishments you have in your life, whether they're big or small, in the lives of others. You can do the gratitude practice, if that's your jam. You can dance to a song you love. You could write a list of all your wins for the week. If you have an accomplishment stock, write some stuff down. If you don't have an accomplishment stock, you definitely should start one and write it down. And it can start from the moment of when you were small, of like learning to walk, learning to talk, to how you grew into a child and then a teenager and an adult. Just to see you're always changing, you're always growing, there's always something to celebrate. Or it could be as simple as eat your favorite snack, be present for that moment, really savor the experience of your favorite dessert or your favorite dish. And then Sunday is to create intention. So think about, what's your purpose in life? Right? Some deep questions. What makes you feel alive? And where and how do you find meaning? You could reflect on your day, your week, your month, your year. And then you can ask yourself some important questions. So I'll share a few questions now that you can think about. We'll do a little bit of an activity, but I'll share it afterwards if this is something you'd like to incorporate into your life. So I want you to imagine that you're towards the end of your life and you've lived your ideal life. If it helps, you can close your eyes and visualize the spot where you want to be sitting. Your favorite spot. The spot where you reflect back on your life. What do you see? What smells are around? What sounds are around you? Who's this audacious, badass self? And the questions that you can ask this future version of you is, what have you learned in life? What have you experienced in life? And what have you contributed to the world? And then digging a bit deeper, what gave you the energy to make those things happen? And what things did you let go of in your life that weren't serving you, things that drained your energy? What emotions did you experience most out of life? Maybe what about your energy levels? And then bring yourself back to today, your present self. And what's your level of satisfaction with life based on your future self? So if we think of on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not satisfied at all, 10 being yeah, this is awesome, I'm super satisfied. How satisfied are you with this direction in your life, with your future self? moving towards that future self. And wherever your number is, that's okay. That's your baseline. But what can you do to make it one number higher? So if you're a 6 today, how can you make it a 7? What do you need to learn? What do you want to experience? How do you want to contribute to the world? What gives you energy? What do you need to let go of that's draining your energy? And so what I recommend, I think this is great to do regardless if you have one practice or multiple practices you do every week, is write this down, reflect on it, and then you can be more intentional with how you choose to live every week and how you choose to align with your values. So bringing it back to how can we live a more value-based life? And so those are 7 practices that you can incorporate in your life, experiment with, find out what you like, what you want to keep. And now I'm going to shift gears again into how can I bring it into the workplace? Actually, before we do that, does anyone have questions about any of these activities or thoughts or anything they want to share? No? Okay. Well, I'll ask again for questions at the end if there's anything. And of course, after today's session, you can always reach out to me if you'd prefer to do it one-on-one. So the next question is, how can I bring it to the workplace? I think maybe we've experienced that mindfulness can be pretty cool. So maybe you already practice it, you love it, you want to bring it to the company culture. How do you do it? I think there are a few steps that are really helpful when you're thinking about how do we weave this into the workplace culture. So first, it starts with you, right? You need to find ways that you can bring it into your own workplace experience. So how can you be more mindful about how you work, how you schedule your time, how you speak and listen with and listen to your coworkers? How do you respond to emails? How do you lead meetings? How do you feel during the day? What do you do when you're frustrated? How do you center or calm yourself when there's tension or stress? It starts there. It's hard, and it will always be a process. Some days are great, some days aren't. Some days are a struggle, and that's okay. But it's the practice of mindfulness. So how can you start at home? And then the next piece is talk to the people team or the HR team or leadership. Adding it to company culture really depends on the mindset of the company. Is it a fixed mindset company or is it a growth mindset company? If it's a growth mindset company, it's going to be a lot easier. And what I recommend is find out what it would take to bring to the workplace. So when you pitch it, include the current pain points that team members are facing. Is there an abundance of stress, lack of resilience? Is there anxiety? Go back to the benefits page that I shared. What are some things that you could identify that could be benefits for pain points that people are experiencing? Then also mention in your pitch what it would look like in practice, the expected benefits, and then how they relate to your company values or goals. Is it related to how can we live our values in a more apparent way, right? A more visible way? If it's goals, could this be related to retention? Could this be related to job satisfaction? Could it be a way where we test for performance? What would that look like? And then regardless of who you talk to, you need to make sure you tailor your message, right? What you tell the people ops team will be different than what you tell the CEO or the COO. Third is find a facilitator. So you could bring in a professional to help establish mindfulness at your company. It could be internal or external. So this is part of my role at DevX. We've woven it into several elements in terms of the DevXer experience. So our onboarding check-ins that I do with all of our team members, the one-on-one coaching I do with our team members. I lead weekly mindfulness sessions. That's a curated library. And then we have coaching cycle questions. So these are like the equivalent of performance reviews, but making sure that we're asking questions that evoke some sense of mindfulness. And if you don't have the resources to bring in a facilitator, a way that you could curate it simply is, find some mindfulness resources. UC Berkeley has a great one. UCLA has a great one. Mayo Body Mind Initiative, I think is the other, has some great resources. Or you can also create memberships, right? So there are a lot of different apps that people could use, like Headspace, Calm, or Insight Timer. Insight Timer has some really good free options if you're tight on resources. So there are a few different ways that you can look at it if you can't bring in a facilitator. And then educate the team, right? So I think there's still a lot of misunderstanding and sometimes stigma around mindfulness. So educate your team to understand what it is as well as what it's not. What I've seen most commonly where there is resistance or hesitation is people think that it's related to some religious practice that they don't feel comfortable doing. So helping people understand that's not what mindfulness is. You can see mindfulness in some religions, but what we practice in the workplace is completely secular. You don't have to have any beliefs, but it's more around how can this help you from a more scientific standpoint. And then the last is make it optional, right? Not everyone's going to want to participate. What I found has worked best is start with a few ambassadors, people that really like mindfulness. And when you start offering this within the organization and they derive value from it, they'll share it with their teammates and word will spread. We saw the same thing at DevX. When we first started, we had, I think, only like 3 people join at most. And now we've had up to like 20 come in and join from across the globe because it's something they really like. And then a lot of people listen to the recordings that I have from the sessions that I give on their own time who can't join in the live session that I offer weekly. So always make it optional and you'll see people will slowly start to come. It's a big culture shift, I think, sometimes because it can feel quite vulnerable. So those are the steps that I would recommend in terms of starting points of how you can incorporate it into your workplace culture. And that's all we've got for today. So I'm going to move it to the last slide, which is questions. Does anyone have any questions or comments or things that they just loved about this that they want to take into their life after today?
Hi, Rachel. It's Kathy here. Can I just say I wasn't able to get in. I was sort of, it disconnected. And I tried multiple times, and unfortunately, I was unable to get back in. And I just said I'd try again before I contacted the support team. So unfortunately, I missed the session.
That's okay. We'll have a recording. You can watch it. It's something that you can watch on your own time and kind of break it into pieces. And then also on the last slide, which I can move it to now, is my website, and I have free resources there. So some of the activities we did today are in the blog that I have, and I have audio recordings as well as the transcripts. So if it's ever something you want to use within your own organization or just for yourself, you can do that too.
Okay, I don't know what happened. It just
technology. You never know.
Rachel asked me, did I want to continue, and then bang. Anyway, not to worry. I'm really sorry about that. Okay.
That's totally okay.
Can you send that to me, Magda?
I will be sharing this on our social media under the posts where we announce the session and in the discussions and resources. So I'm sure you'll find it.
Rachel, I wanted to thank you for the session. I really like the 7 techniques. I was for some time I'm using the Headspace.
Okay.
I mean, I don't feel that I need this anymore, but I really like Andy's voice. Like on the very beginning when we started, it's this guided meditation. I really enjoy it, and even though that I maybe don't need it anymore, I really like it. But I really like the other 7 techniques that you shared. and it reminded me that I used to use this app. I'm not sure if you know it, 5-minute journal. I really liked it. Yeah, and then it reminded me that I stopped like 2 years ago, and I think I'm going back to it because I mean it was really nice. It was also giving you an option to take a picture of the day and then list 3 things that you are grateful for and like 3 things that you want to accomplish this day. And if you practice, and I think what like with everywhere else, what is needed here is like consistency, and only then you will see true results. I mean. On the very beginning, when I started with the meditation, it was annoying. I couldn't really. It was annoying, and I couldn't focus. I mean, everything was disturbing me. I couldn't stop thinking for like 15 seconds. I mean, after 15 seconds, I was just somewhere else doing the other thing. So, I think the consistency is a key here, and I like the other techniques as well. So I think I'll just. Maybe then the next week I'll just do it this way, like you suggested. One thing a day, and will be interesting. So once again, thanks for the session.
Yeah, of course. I'd love to hear how the experiment goes. And you also brought up a couple good points that I want to mention. So first, in terms of voice, if we're thinking about how you can incorporate this in the workplace culture. So I actually created resources for our team to use, and I got the feedback from our team, well, I prefer your voice because I know you. I think there's something really intimate about that. So if you have the capacity to do that at your team, there's tons of resources online where you can record them and your team can listen. I think it creates a really nice dynamic that you can share with people, and I've actually seen team members come, if you're part of a people team or a team lead, like this can be really helpful in terms of like building trust. And I've seen a lot more people come to me about more sensitive topics that attend these sessions, which is really, really cool. And then the other thing you talked about was consistency, and I can't stress that enough. Consistency is key. I may not be the best example. I go through cycles where I'm really, really good, and then I drop it, and then I pick it up, and I'm really, really good, and then I drop it. And I notice the difference when I'm not doing it. So I think what they've found in the studies is when you see the change, so you can actually measure the change in the brain, it comes from long-term practice. So a minimum of 8 weeks is typically where you're going to start to see major shifts. And then when you think about the duration in which you should practice, you want to hover, if you're doing meditation, you want to hover at about 30-minute sessions to start to see like the major ones. Not everyone has time for that. I typically do 10 minutes instead of 30. But I've done experiments where I do like half an hour in the morning and a half an hour at night, and it's dramatically different. So if you're already experienced, I'd say also play with duration. Like how long do you want to do it? And do you have the ability to have it as part of a morning and night routine? Because it's really cool to see how it changes your day when you start and end your day that way.
Yeah, I'm usually the morning person here, and I'm like the 10-15 minute sessions. I haven't done any longer. Maybe I'll try as well. But yeah, as I said, I mean, on the very beginning, even 10 minutes was super difficult to focus. But with time, it gets better.
Yeah, and that's why I think if you're a beginner, start with around 3 to 5 minutes and then slowly build up over time. And really, when it comes to practicing, the mind will wander, right? 15 seconds, and then it wanders. That's fine. That's where you can mentally note thinking, feeling, and then guide your attention back to the breath again. And it'll get easier. And then there's once you like really get into your jam, like you might just groove and have like a 30-minute session. That's fantastic. And then the next day it might just be a absolute struggle. And that's okay too. Like I think, again, it's going back to the non-judgmental, curious standpoint of just being aware with whatever is going on and being okay with what's coming up. Yeah. Any other thoughts, questions before we wrap up? Okay, cool. So Magda, I'll share the link to the presentation that I have. So I have all of my speaker notes there. So if you really liked some of the sessions, all of the transcripts, everything's there, so you can use it as a resource. And if you have any questions and want to follow up with me directly, feel free. And yeah, I really appreciate you joining. And Kathy, after you have a chance to view it, let me know how it goes, things you liked, things that could be better, and same for you, Lucas, too. If there are things that you'd love to learn more about, let me know. And yeah, thanks again, everyone.
Sure. Thanks, Rachel, for sharing everything. I am ending the recording now. And yeah, and I'll let you know when we upload this, so you can also share it wherever you want to share it. And it will be available across all our platforms. So whoever needs to find it, or whoever will be looking for some tips on mindfulness, will hopefully find